Stop before you spend that penny. Yes, I am serious. Look closer. Is it a common cent or a life-changing treasure worth thousands? Welcome to Legacy Coins USA. I'm your guide through the hidden world of numismatic rarities, from the wartime shell case beauties of 1945 to the legendary no-shoulder fold 1953 Canadian gems. We are hunting for those micro S marks, the high-stakes double dies, and the copper transition eras that the history books forgot. We don't just look at coins, we decode the DNA of American and Canadian history. Join the legacy, hit that subscribe button, grab your magnifying glass, and let's find the fortune hidden in your pocket change. This is Legacy Coins USA, where every cent has a story. Let's get started. The 1953 Canadian 1-cent coin stands as a monumental pillar in Commonwealth numismatics, marking the historic transition from the reign of King George VI to his daughter, Queen Elizabeth II. Following her coronation, the Royal Canadian Mint commissioned 71-year-old sculptor Mary Gillick to create a fresh, evocative portrait that captured the 27-year-old Queen's vitality. This design, known as the Young Queen or Laureate Portrait, shows Elizabeth uncrowned, wearing a simple laurel wreath tied with a ribbon. It was intended to reflect a nation emerging from the shadows of World War II with a renewed sense of hope and modernism. Beneath the surface of this seemingly standard circulation coin lies a technical drama that has obsessed collectors for decades: the battle between the no-shoulder fold (NSF) and shoulder fold (SF) varieties. When the first dies arrived from the Royal Mint in London, the relief of the Queen's shoulder was too shallow. As these dies were used in Ottawa, they failed to strike clearly, leaving the Queen's gown appearing smooth. This no-shoulder fold version is the original, rarer strike. To fix the ghosting effect where the image wouldn't fully form, Chief Engraver Thomas Shingles modified the design later that year to deepen the relief, creating the shoulder fold variety where a distinct strap or fold is visible on the Queen's gown. Identifying these two giants of the 1953 series requires a keen eye for denticles, the small tooth-like beads around the rim. On the rarer no-shoulder fold NSF coins, the letters of the inscription ELIZABTHIIDEIGOATIA Regina are quite flared at the ends, and the I in DEI points directly between two denticles. On the revised shoulder fold SF coins, the letters are more block-like, and the I in DEI aligns perfectly with a single denticle. This tiny geometric alignment is the secret handshake of serious Canadian coin hunters, as the price difference between the two can be substantial. The reverse of the coin remains a classic staple of Canadian identity, featuring the iconic twin maple leaves designed by G.E. Kruger Gray. While the obverse was undergoing a revolutionary change, the reverse maintained the steady continuity of the Canadian penny used since 1937. The composition is a rich bronze alloy consisting of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. This high copper content is what gives well-preserved 1953 pennies their legendary red RD luster, a vibrant orange-gold glow that is highly prized by collectors over the more common brown, BN, or red-brown RB tones found in circulated specimens. Value in the 1953 penny market is dictated by these subtle variations and the state of preservation. A common, shoulder-fold penny in average circulated condition might only be worth its copper melt value or a few cents, but a high-grade, no-shoulder fold specimen can easily fetch $50 to $200. The ultimate prizes are the specimen strikes or those with proof-like qualities, which were issued in limited sets for collectors. A 1953 NSF penny in a high mint state, MS65 or higher, with original red luster can command hundreds of dollars at auction, serving as a blue-chip investment for those specializing in Canadian small cents. Beyond the standard varieties, the 1953 issue is known for several fascinating mint eras that add an extra layer of mystery for the specialized collector. Due to the high production volume and the experimentation with new dies, examples of double strikes, die cracks, and off-center clips are occasionally found. One particularly sought-after anomaly is the hanging 3, where a die clash creates a faint line extending from the top of the 3 in the date, making it appear as though the digit is suspended from the maple leaf above it. These errors transform a common penny into a unique piece of industrial history. The cultural impact of the 1953 penny cannot be overstated, as it remained a daily companion for Canadians for over half a century. Because the Gillick portrait was used until 1964, the 1953 coin represents the genesis of an era. For many, it evokes memories of a time when a single cent could still purchase penny candy or a newspaper. The Dei Gratia Regina, by the grace of God, Queen, inscription also reflects a traditional bond with the monarchy that was central to Canadian identity during the mid-20th century, before the country moved toward more distinct symbols of sovereignty. For the modern collector, the 1953 Canada cent is an accessible entry point into the world of variety hunting. While many rare coins require thousands of dollars to acquire, one can still find 1953 pennies in old jars or inherited collections. The thrill of the hunt lies in taking a magnifying glass to a chocolate brown penny and checking the alignment of that I in DEI. It is a hobby that rewards patience and knowledge, turning a simple piece of copper into a historical treasure map. As Canada officially ceased the production of the penny in 2012 and began withdrawing them from circulation, the 1953 issue has transitioned from pocket change to a historical artifact. Its attractive bronze hue and the elegance of the young Queen's profile make it a favorite for typeset collectors who want one representative coin for every monarch. Whether you hold a common SF variety or the elusive NSF rarity, the 1953 Canadian penny remains a timeless symbol of a queen's coronation and a nation's coming of age. Keep a close eye on your change because that hidden treasure might be sitting right in your pocket. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a big find. Stay tuned because in the next video, we're diving into another legendary coin that could be worth a small fortune. Next up, the year 1956 marked a period of immense stability and production for the United States Mint. Yet for the humble 1-cent piece, it represented the sunset of a design that had dominated pockets since 1909. The Lincoln Wheat penny, originally commissioned by President Theodore Roosevelt to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth, reached a massive mintage in 1956, with over 1.5 billion coins struck across the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. Despite these high numbers, the 1956 issue is a favorite for collectors because it represents the purity of the series before the metal composition and design overhauls of the late 20th century, serving as a copper-rich time capsule of 1950s prosperity. The aesthetic of the 1956 penny is defined by Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that famously broke U.S. tradition by featuring a real historical figure rather than a personification of liberty. On the reverse, the wheat ears design, technically durum wheat stalks, symbolizes the nation's agricultural strength and abundance. This reverse imagery, combined with the Latin motto, E pluribus unum, out of many one, creates a visual narrative of a unified and growing America. The 95% copper composition gives these coins a substantial feel and a potential for vibrant red luster that modern zinc-based pennies simply cannot replicate. For the value-seeking collector, the primary hunt in 1956 revolves around the D mint mark from Denver and the no mint mark specimens from Philadelphia. While most circulated 1956 pennies are worth only a few cents, the market for red, RD uncirculated coins is explosive. To be classified as red, a coin must retain at least 95% of its original mint orange-gold glow. A 1956 D penny, graded at MS67 red by professional services like PCGS or NGC, can fetch upwards of $7,000 at auction. As few specimens survived the decades without developing the brown patina, BN, or red-brown, RB tunning caused by environmental exposure. The true holy grail of 1956 numismatics lies in the variety of minting errors that occurred during the high-speed production of that year. The most famous is the 1956 D repunched mint mark, RPM, where the letter D was struck into the die twice, often showing a shadow D slightly above or to the side of the main letter. Another legendary error is the BIE variety, a unique die crack that occurred between the B and E of Liberty. This tiny vertical bar makes the word look like LIBIRTY, and these coins have developed their own dedicated cult following among error specialists who trade them for significant premiums. Beyond the standard business strikes, 1956 was a banner year for proof coinage at the Philadelphia Mint. Approximately 669,384 proof sets were produced, containing pennies struck with specially polished dies and planchets to create a mirror-like finish. These proof 1956 pennies are often found with cameo or deep cameo effects, where Lincoln's frostwhite portrait stands out sharply against a liquid black background. A high-grade PR69 Deep Cameo 1956 penny is an elite rarity, representing the absolute pinnacle of the U.S. Mint's technical capabilities during the Eisenhower administration. The technical specifications of the 1956 penny are critical for authentication. It weighs 3.11 grams and measures 19.05 millimeters in diameter. Unlike the light 2.5-gram zinc pennies of today, the 1956 copper cent has a distinct ring when dropped on a hard surface. Collectors often use coin chemistry to identify rare tones, as 1956 pennies stored in original paper rolls sometimes develop rainbow toning, vivid streaks of blue, purple, and green caused by a reaction between the copper and the sulfur in the paper. These toned beauties are highly subjective in value, but can command massive prices from collectors who prioritize eye appeal. Collectors also keep a sharp eye out for die clashes and double die variations. A 1956 double die reverse DDR shows faint doubling in the letters of 1 cent or the wheat stalks themselves. While not as famous as the 1955 double die, the 1956 versions are much more affordable, making them the perfect entry point for hobbyists learning to use a jeweler's loupe. Identifying these involves looking for extra thickness in the lettering or distinct notches at the corners of the characters, which indicate the die was shifted during the hubbing process. The 1956 penny also carries a unique anniversary significance. It was minted exactly 50 years after Victor David Brenner first met with Roosevelt to discuss the design. This Golden Jubilee context adds a layer of heritage to the coin that appeals to historical purists. Because 1956 was one of the last 3 years of the wheat reverse, many people at the time actually saved these coins in jars, meaning that while they are common, finding one in gem condition is a test of a collector's patience and ability to sort through thousands of ordinary specimens. Ultimately, the 1956 Lincoln wheat penny is more than just 1 cent. It is a piece of industrial art that survived the transition into the modern world. Whether it is a common Denver strike found in a grandfather's collection or a high-tier proof specimen housed in a professional slab, the coin remains a testament to Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy. As the supply of high-grade copper wheat pennies continues to dwindle due to environmental degradation, the 1956 issue stands as a robust and attractive investment for anyone looking to own a tangible slice of the American mid-century dream. Next up, the 1983 Lincoln cent arrived at a pivotal crossroads in American metallurgy, serving as the first full year of the zinc era. Just a year prior, in late 1982, soaring copper prices forced the U.S. Mint to abandon the traditional 95% copper alloy that had defined the penny for decades. In its place came the copper-plated zinc core, a lighter and cheaper alternative. This transition created a numismatic storm in 1983, as the machinery was still being calibrated for the new, softer metal, leading to a massive influx of minting errors and varieties that make this year a prime target for modern cherry-pickers. While your coin might be in bad condition, its weight is the first thing a collector would check. In a stroke of industrial accidental luck, a handful of leftover bronze planchets, the 3.11-gram copper blanks from 1982 were accidentally fed into the presses in 1983. This resulted in the 1983 copper transitional era. These coins are virtually indistinguishable from zinc pennies by sight alone, especially when worn or corroded. However, if a 1983 penny weighs 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams, it transforms from a common cent into a legendary rarity worth upwards of $15,000 to $30,000 at auction. The 1983 Philadelphia issue, bearing no mint mark, is also famous for the doubled die reverse, DDR, widely considered the most dramatic doubling error of the modern era. On these coins, the lettering for United States of America and EPLUBUSUNUM appears significantly doubled, almost as if the words are vibrating or have a ghost-like shadow. Unlike many subtle errors, a strong 1983 DDR is visible to the naked eye. Even in circulated, bad condition, a 1983 DDR can command hundreds of dollars, while pristine examples have famously crossed the $7,000 mark. Collectors also focus on the zinc bubbles that plague many 1983 pennies. Because the copper plating on these early zinc cents was often thin or poorly bonded, gas would get trapped between the layers, creating tiny bumps or pimples on the surface. While technically a defect that can lead to rapid corrosion and a bad condition appearance over time, these bubbles serve as a fingerprint of the mint's early struggles with the new composition. To a historian, these bubbles represent the growing pains of a government trying to outrun the rising cost of raw materials. The reverse of the coin features Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design, which was used from 1959 until 2008. In 1983, the high volume of production, over 7.7 billion coins in Philadelphia alone, meant that dies were often used long past their prime. This led to die deterioration doubling, a common phenomenon where the edges of the letters look fuzzy or doubled due to a worn-out stamp. Beginners often mistake this for a valuable doubled die, but true collectors look for the sharp, clear separation found in genuine hub doubling, which is the hallmark of a high-value 1983 specimen. Another rare variation for the 1983 D Denver Mint is the repunched mint mark, RPM. Before 1990, mint marks were hand-punched into the dies by workers, a manual process prone to human error. Some 1983 D pennies show a secondary D beneath the primary one, indicating the punch slipped. While dozens of RPM varieties exist for this year, they remain a treasure hunt item for collectors who enjoy the micro details of minting. Finding an RPM on a circulated coin is a triumph of observation over condition. The small 8 variety is another point of interest for 1983 enthusiasts. Due to subtle changes in the master dies, some coins feature an 8 in the date that appears slightly smaller or differently shaped than the standard large 8. While the value difference isn't as extreme as the copper transition, it adds to the narrative of a year where nothing was quite standardized. For a typeset collector, having both a 1983 large date and small date is a way to document the minute evolution of American currency. When a 1983 penny is in bad condition, marked by scratches, corrosion, or environmental damage, it is often referred to as a cull. However, the 1983 copper-plated zinc cent is particularly susceptible to zinc rot, a dark, black oxidation that eats the coin from the inside out once the copper plating is breached. Paradoxically, this vulnerability makes high-grade, red examples from 1983 even more valuable, as they have successfully dodged the chemical decay that has claimed billions of their siblings over the last 4 decades. In the world of modern numismatics, the 1983 penny is a symbol of the hidden treasure. It teaches collectors that value isn't always about age or gold content. Sometimes, it's about a mistake in a factory or a change in a recipe. Even if your coin looks like it has been through a war, its identity as a 1983 cent means it carries the potential of being a transitional miracle. It remains one of the most exciting years to search in pocket change, proving that in the palm of your hand, a single cent can still tell a multi-thousand-dollar story. Next up, The 1860 Indian head cent arrived during a period of intense national tension, serving as a small copper-nickel ambassador of a country on the brink of internal conflict. This year was significant because it marked the second year of the Indian head design, but more importantly, it was the debut of the oak wreath with shield on the reverse. The previous 1859 version featured a simple laurel wreath. However, for the 1860 issue, James Barton Longacre added a shield at the top of the wreath to symbolize national unity and the federal authority of the United States. This Type II design would become the standard for the series for the next half-century, making the 1860 coin the true patriarch of the classic Indian head cent look. James Barton Longacre, the designer, chose a unique depiction of Lady Liberty for the obverse. Contrary to the name Indian head, the figure is not a Native American, but rather a Caucasian personification of liberty wearing a feathered headdress. Legend has it that Longacre used his daughter, Sarah, as the model, though historians suggest he more likely adapted the profile from a statue of Venus in Philadelphia. By placing a traditional Native American headdress on Liberty, Longacre intended to create a uniquely American icon that distinguished the young republic's coinage from the crown-wearing monarchs of Europe, blending indigenous symbolism with Greco-Roman artistic traditions. The metallurgy of the 1860 cent is a fascinating departure from the pennies we know today. These coins were struck in copper-nickel, consisting of 88% copper and 12% nickel. Because of their high nickel content, they appeared much lighter in color than previous copper coins, earning them the nickname white cents or nickels before the 5-cent piece adopted that name. This specific alloy made the 1860 cent thicker and heavier, 4.67 grams, than modern pennies. For collectors, the white cent era 1859–1864 is a distinct subsector of the hobby, prized for the unique pale gold or silver-tan patina these coins develop over time. In terms of value and rarity, the 1860 Indian head cent is a key date for any mid-century typeset. While the mintage was relatively high for the time, approximately 20.5 million finding specimens in high-grade, uncirculated condition is an immense challenge. A common, well-worn 1860 cent in good G4 condition might retail for $10 to $20, but the price escalates rapidly as the quality improves. A specimen in MS65, mint state, condition, showing the full details of the feathers and the veins in the oak leaves, can easily command between $1,000 and $2,500 at auction, reflecting its status as a survivor of the pre-war economy. One of the most attractive aspects of the 1860 issue for specialized collectors is the pointed bust versus rounded bust debate. While the 1860 is generally uniform, variations exist where the tip of Liberty's bust, the bottom of her neck, appears slightly more pointed or blunt. Furthermore, the 1860 cent is known for having several double-die obverse DDO varieties. These are characterized by a slight doubling of the word Liberty on the headband or in the outlines of the feathers. Identifying a 1860 DDO through a magnifying glass is a holy grail moment for variety hunters, as these errors carry a significant premium over standard strikes. The reverse design of 1860 is a triumph of symbolic detail. The oak wreath was chosen because oak represents strength and longevity, while the bunch of 3 arrows tied at the bottom of the wreath signifies military readiness and the original 13 colonies' unity. The small shield at the top, known as a Union shield, was a direct response to the secessionist talk of the time. It was the mint's way of literally stamping the message of the Union into the hands of every American citizen. This makes the 1860 cent not just money, but a piece of political propaganda from one of the darkest hours in American history. Collector demand for the 1860 cent is also driven by the proof strikes of that year. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 1,000 proof coins for wealthy collectors of the era. These proofs were struck twice on polished planchets, resulting in a mirror-like field and razor-sharp details on Liberty's face. Because so few have survived in pristine condition, a 1860 proof cent is a blue-chip investment, with some reaching prices over $5,000. For the average collector, even a business strike with proof-like surfaces is considered a major find, indicating it was one of the very first coins struck from a fresh set of dies. Condition grading for the 1860 Indian head cent focuses heavily on the diamonds. On Liberty's ribbon, the headband, there are 4 diamond-shaped patterns. In low grades, these are the first details to wear away. A coin is only considered extra fine, EF40, or better if all 4 diamonds are clearly visible. Additionally, collectors look at the tips of the feathers. If the delicate lines at the ends of the feathers are sharp, it indicates the coin never saw significant circulation. For a coin nearly 165 years old, finding one with any original mint frost is like finding a needle in a haystack. Ultimately, owning an 1860 Indian head cent is like holding a piece of the old world, America, before the Civil War changed the country forever. It represents the height of James Barton Longacre's career and the birth of a design that would stay in the pockets of Americans through the Wild West era and into the dawn of the 20th century. Whether it is a dark, circulated example that perhaps sat in a soldier's pocket or a glowing, uncirculated gem, the 1860 white cent remains one of the most attractive and historically significant coins ever produced by the United States Mint. Next up, the 2002 Canadian 1-cent coin is a profound numismatic tribute, specifically minted to honor the Golden Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. While most Canadian pennies feature a single date, this commemorative edition bears the dual dates, 1952-2002, on the reverse, flanking the iconic maple leaf design. This half-century marker celebrates the transition of the young Princess Elizabeth into a seasoned monarch, making it a must-have for collectors of royal memorabilia. It represents a rare moment where a circulation coin serves both as daily currency and a historical monument to one of the longest reigns in modern history. One of the most distinctive features of this specific coin is the small P mint mark located directly below the Queen's effigy on the obverse. This P does not stand for a city like Philadelphia, rather it indicates plated. During this era, the Royal Canadian Mint transitioned from a solid zinc-copper alloy to a multiply-plated steel technology. The P signifies that the coin is composed of a steel core, electroplated with layers of nickel and finally copper. This industrial shift was driven by rising metal costs, making the 2002 P penny a fascinating specimen of modern metallurgical engineering and government cost-saving measures. The obverse of the 2002 penny features the third official portrait of the Queen used on Canadian currency, designed by artist Dora de Padery Hunt. Unlike the 1953 Young Queen portrait, this 2002 version shows a more mature Elizabeth II, wearing a necklace and earrings, but still depicted without a crown, a tradition for Canadian cents. This portrait is framed by the Latin inscription Elizabeth Regina, which stands for Dei Gratia Regina, by the grace of God, Queen. This portrait was nearing the end of its life cycle in 2002, as it would be replaced just a year later, adding to the coin's collectible appeal. The reverse of the coin maintains the classic twin maple leaves, originally designed by G.E. Kruger Gray in 1937, but with the vital addition of the 1952-2002 dates. The maple leaf is the quintessential symbol of Canada, representing the country's vast natural beauty and national pride. The juxtaposition of the 50-year anniversary dates against the timeless maple leaf design creates a visual bridge between the post-war Canada of 1952 and the modern, technologically advanced nation of 2002. This blend of tradition and commemoration is what makes the Golden Jubilee penny stand out in a collection of standard small cents. In terms of market value, the 2002 P penny is generally affordable, as millions were struck for circulation, but condition is king. While a circulated example is worth face value or a few cents for its copper plating, specimens in high mint state, MS65 to MS67, are highly sought after. Collectors specifically look for red, RD specimens that have preserved their original mint luster without any dark spots or zinc rot. Because the steel core is prone to rusting if the copper plating is scratched, finding a 2002p in pristine, brilliant condition is becoming increasingly difficult as the years pass. There is a rare and highly valuable variety of the 2002 penny that collectors hunt for, the non-P variety. While the Royal Canadian Mint was transitioning to plated steel, a small number of pennies were still struck on the older zinc alloy planchets without the P mark. While common in some sets, finding a non-P 2002 penny in a circulation roll is a major win. Furthermore, the 2002 series is known for die clashes, where the image of the maple leaf faintly appears on the Queen's side of the coin due to the dies striking each other without a coin blank in between. The 2002 Golden Jubilee penny also exists in a proof version, which was issued in special prestige sets for collectors. These proof coins are struck on specially prepared silver or high-grade bronze blanks and feature a frosted image against a mirror-like background. A silver 2002 Golden Jubilee penny is a crown jewel for Canadian cent collectors, as it was never intended for circulation and carries a much higher intrinsic and numismatic value, often selling for $20 to $50 depending on the set it originated from. For those interested in era collecting, the 2002p is a frequent subject of off-center strikes. Because of the high-speed production of the plated steel cents, the planchets sometimes didn't seat correctly in the collar. An 1860-style misstrike on a 2002p, where 10% to 20% of the design is missing, can turn a common cent into a $25 to $50 treasure. These errors are particularly attractive because the steel core provides a different strike character than the older copper-based pennies, often resulting in sharper, more wire-like edges on the era. As Canada officially retired the penny in 2012, the 2002 Golden Jubilee issue has taken on a new level of nostalgia. It represents one of the last major commemorative milestones in the history of the Canadian 1-cent piece. For a collector, holding this coin is a way to remember the Queen's 50th year on the throne and the final decade of the penny's existence in Canadian commerce. Whether you are a casual hobbyist or a serious numismatist, the 2002p stands as a shimmering, copper-plated testament to half a century of Canadian royal history. Next up, the 1945 Lincoln Wheat penny stands as a triumphant numismatic symbol of the conclusion of World War II. Following the 1943 steel penny experiment, which was necessitated by the wartime need for copper, the Mint began recycling spent brass shell casings from military training grounds to produce the 1944 and 1945 shell case cents. Although the 1945 penny looks virtually identical to the pre-war copper cents, its DNA is fundamentally different, containing the actual remnants of the American war effort. This intrinsic connection to the battlefields of Europe and the Pacific makes every 1945 penny a tangible piece of the greatest generation's legacy. The technical composition of the 1945 penny is officially 95% copper and 5% zinc, lacking the tin that was standard in earlier years. Because the copper was sourced from salvaged shell casings, the metal often had impurities that resulted in wood grain or streaky appearances on the surface of the coin. For a specialized collector, these woody 1945 pennies are highly attractive and unique. The streaks of dark and light orange provide a rustic, organic look that distinguishes them from the perfectly uniform strikes of the modern era. These streaks aren't considered damage, but rather a chemical fingerprint of the frantic, high-volume production required during the final year of the war. Value in the 1945 series is heavily weighted toward the red RD designation. While over 1 billion of these coins were struck in Philadelphia, the vast majority went into heavy circulation to fuel the post-war economy, leading to the dark brown BN patina seen on most survivors. A common 1945 penny in worn condition is worth about 2 to 5 cents. However, a 1945 Philadelphia cent in MS-67 red condition, appearing as if it just fell off the press yesterday, can command prices between $4,000 and $7,500. The rarity isn't in the coin itself, but in the survival of its original, fiery mint luster through 8 decades of history. The 1945 San Francisco and 1945 Denver mint marks offer their own set of challenges for the dedicated numismatist. The San Francisco mint produced the Micro S variety, where the mint mark is noticeably smaller than the standard S. This variety is highly sought after by typeset collectors and carries a premium even in lower grades. Detecting a Micro S requires a 10x jeweler's loupe to see the delicate, tiny punch of the letter. Finding one of these in an old cigar box or an inherited jar is one of the great joys of cherry-picking through World War I-era coinage. Era hunting in 1945 is particularly lucrative due to the double-die varieties found in both the obverse and reverse. The 1945 double-die obverse, DDO, shows distinct thickening and slight separation in the date and the word liberty. While not as dramatic as the legendary 1955 era, the 1945 DDO is a sophisticated find that requires a sharp eye for notching on the corners of the digits. Additionally, repunched mint marks, RPM, are frequent in the Denver and San Francisco issues, where the mint mark was struck into the die twice, creating a shadowed or blurred effect that adds significant value to an otherwise common coin. The design by Victor David Brenner remains a masterpiece of understated elegance. The obverse features the iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, which was the first time a president had ever appeared on a regular issue U.S. coin. The reverse features 2 stalks of durum wheat framing the denomination, a symbol of American agricultural abundance and the breadbasket of the world, status the U.S. held during the mid-20th century. In 1945, these wheat stalks represented more than just food. They represented the stability and growth that the world hoped for in the post-war Reconstruction era. For the modern collector, 1945 pennies are often graded based on the wheat lines. On the reverse of the coin, there are fine horizontal lines at the top of the wheat stalks. In a choice or gem-grade coin, these lines must be perfectly sharp and unbroken. As soon as a coin enters circulation, these are the first details to flatten. A 1945 penny with full wheat lines and full Lincoln ear detail is a hallmark of a high-quality strike, indicating that the dies were fresh and the pressure of the coin press was optimal during that specific moment of production. Condition and eye appeal are subjective but vital components of a 1945 penny's attractiveness. Some 1945 cents stored in old sulfur-rich coin folders have developed tunning, where the copper reacts with the environment to create iridescent shades of violet, blue, and emerald green. These toned wheaties are a subspecialty of the hobby. While some purists prefer the original red, many modern collectors will pay a significant tunning premium for a 1945 cent that looks like a miniature rainbow, viewing it as a work of accidental art. As we move further away from the 1940s, the supply of high-grade 1945 wheat pennies continues to tighten. They are a staple of American coin folders and are often the first coin a young collector uses to start their journey into numismatics. The 1945 cent is the perfect entry point because it is affordable enough for a beginner to own a piece of World War II history, yet it contains enough rare varieties and high-grade reds to keep a professional investor interested for a lifetime. It remains an enduring, copper-tinted memory of a time when the world changed forever.